Wendy, you're going to be talking about the miracle that is your business. Why do you see it from that perspective, that a business is a miracle?
You know, it's interesting because I recognize it's a relatively bold statement to talk about miracles. And even I would never have guessed in a million years that I would be talking about miracles, much less in the context of business. However, after a very significant life event of my own, I started looking at things a lot differently. And I really do believe, first of all, that you're a miracle. I mean, the very fact that somehow you got created to be the unique you that you are, just like our thumbprint. You know, there's nobody else on this planet just like you. Nobody. And I believe now, I don't know that I had this, we'll say, this wisdom much earlier in my life, but I really do believe that we're born for a special reason and purpose. And it's our job to grow and to evolve in a way not only that we live rich and fulfilling lives, but that we also use these gifts and talents in a way that we contribute to others. And so when we look at what your business is, you know, you're the person that came up with the idea, the inspiration, the drive to do something about it. Other people didn't. I've read, I'm trying to remember who the author was. I'm not able to in this moment, but I read, you know, we get these little ideas and either we take them, we grab onto them and do something with them, or they kind of pass through us and it lands on somebody else. Who hasn't maybe had an idea and didn't do anything? And then later you see, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was thinking. Or I think the person that I read this about was somebody who was an author and they had an idea for a book and somebody else actually somewhere down the road created it. So what's really special is that you were the one that grabbed onto this. And the fact that you're actually doing something about it probably is a miracle in itself. And that you're continuing to be dedicated to this, to grow your business in a way that you continue to contribute to others. And the whole dominoes of miracles continue to unfold.
You had mentioned gifts and talents. What advice would you give somebody that hasn't quite identified it? You know, I'm just thinking out loud for just a moment, I've met several business owners who haven't really identified that for themselves. They really don't know their true core competency or their true core gift. They venture out in this idea that I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to be a business owner and I'm going to save the world and have all kinds of freedom. And then they're quickly kicked in the face with, that's not how it works. So what advice do you give somebody that may be unsure of what their gifts are? Or, you know, when somebody's sure, they're sure. They know it. They know it. They can talk to anybody and convince them that it's clear, and they'll have that person believing it. But then there's some people that they think they have an idea, and you can tell that it's just an idea, but it's not really at their core.
Yes. Well, that's a really great question. First of all, it's very common for people not to recognize that they have gifts. And the reason is, it was true for me as well. The reason is gifts are such a natural part of who you are that you don't realize not everybody else is like that. And I know for myself, one of my gifts is I'm a really good diagnostician. And I can remember years ago, I begged to get into this practicum with an instructor in graduate school. I mean, honestly, just begged, because he was known to be the best. And so I did get in. And he was also known for putting people on the hot seat. And so one by one, I'm watching people, you know, just get it, keel over. And finally, I couldn't take it anymore. So I go to him and I said, when are you going to put me on the hot seat? And he looks at me and he says, well, why do you think I'm going to put you on the hot seat? And I said, because it looks like you're doing it with just about everybody else. And so he said, well, let me tell you what happens. He said, first of all, somebody gets on the hot seat because they're resisting looking at what's going on. And because of that, I have to push harder. You're always open to really exploring what's going on, what worked, what didn't work, what maybe needs to be different. And he said, and you're an exceptional diagnostician. And I was like, I am? And then he went on to, it was like a newsflash to me. And so he went on to explain a little bit more about what he meant. And I remember saying, it really would have been nice if you would have told me this before, because I might have been able to enjoy this process a lot more than I have been. But the whole point of this is I had no idea. I didn't grow up in a family that said, Wendy, you are really good at this. I grew up in an environment that said, oh, you need to do this different, or you need to do that different. And it really robbed me for a long time of knowing what I was actually good at, because I never had that reinforcement. So if you happen to be one of those people that aren't sure what your gifts really are or talents, start asking people in your life. They will know. They will know what your gifts and talents are. When I've done that, people talk about how I am with relationships, with friendships, with working relationships. And I could probably list a couple other things. But if you're not sure, ask other people. Look at, what do you find easy? What makes you happy? And the other thing that kind of ties into that also ties into the miracle of your business and really working from the heart and soul of your business, is to know the meaning, the reason why you want to build this business. Yes, we all have had phenomenal ideas, I'm sure, at different times, but it doesn't mean I'm going to run out and actually do it. You have to really know that not only is this a good idea, but there's a reason, a really good reason that's going to drive you to build this and grow. Because I can promise you, there will be days, maybe way more than days, that you will wake up and you will want to pull the covers over your head. And you don't necessarily have the luxury to always being able to do that when it's your business. So just like anything that matters to you, it's kind of like you'll do everything in your power to make it happen. And even when it is on track, on purpose, there are still going to be times that we all have to adjust and possibly shift. Right now we're going through a very unique time in our world with COVID. And yet, being who I am and how I tend to look at things, I'm like, what's the opportunity? And I think one of the many opportunities is it's giving us a different kind of time out to reflect. And it's a really good opportunity to dig deeper and to give us the opportunity to really open up. Are we headed in the right direction? Is there some kind of shift that needs to happen? And there are some things that I recommend that people can do to open that up even more.
You had mentioned resistance, that people will resist in that particular conversation that you had with the gentleman who you wanted to be hot-seated by. Resisting, in your experience, what is it that causes us to resist those things? And how do we know whether we're resisting something because of a deeper reason, or if we're not in alignment with it because it doesn't feel right in my life? Those feelings can feel very similar. I'm either resisting it or this just doesn't seem right, but it's still a thought that you're going on. How can you distinguish the difference between the two?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is something that you have to learn to become crystal clear aware of. Having personal awareness, first of all, is going to help. I always have believed in what I call the red light, yellow light, green light process for decision making. And resistance, red light is stop. You know, it's kind of like you're not going to walk in the street when there are all those cars. And excuse me, a green light is, yeah, I'm off and running. It's kind of like being inspired. And I remember years ago, a ring was being made for me, and I wasn't feeling all that inspired about stuff, but suddenly I had to go to the jewelry store. Funny how I found energy. And so those are red light, green light examples. A yellow light is kind of, you've got one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. You kind of go in and out. You can't get clarity. And a yellow light turns into a red light, meaning you have to stop. You have to take a step back, and you have to examine what's really going on. Am I resisting because I'm walking in new territory? It's stretching me. I'm not sure if this is going to work. And there are times that we have to take that step, even when it feels so friggin' uncomfortable. But then this is where self-awareness comes in. And I think this is part of what I help people with to learn how to distinguish, is there are really times where you go, nope, you know, something's off. I don't know what it is. And until you know what it is, you don't take that next step. And so you have to keep checking in with yourself. You have to dig deeper.
When I think about myself in any of these kind of situations, and I'm facing one now, I have a decision that I'm in the yellow zone on, and it's either going to go green or red, and I haven't gotten that clarity. And my internal voice, or my higher self, as I like to call it, is reminding me to go into meditation, to go what serves me best. Now, meditation may not serve everybody the same way, but for me, I get a tremendous amount of clarity when I focus and I meditate. And it doesn't always happen in my first, meditation session. Now, when I fall off that wagon, as we sometimes do, I'll fall behind in my meditation. I don't stay consistent with it as I desire to, or I want to. I really like to meditate twice a day, one in the morning and one at night. But when I fall out of that, because I allow myself to be overwhelmed, there's a constant nagging behind me. Get back to meditation, get back to meditation. And things don't seem to fall in place for me as easily when I step outside that zone. So I mentioned meditation as a form of gaining clarity. What other exercises or mediums do you recommend and helping people get that clarity that they're looking for?
Yeah, I do meditate, but I'm not a good sit down, be quiet kind of meditator. And I think in part it's the beauty of what gifts ultimately came to me, because I respond better with sound. And I actually do sound healing as one little part of my transformational system. And so listen to music, if that helps. You can go for walks. I know that myself and other people that I know get phenomenal insights taking a shower. It's kind of a dual purpose. We all have our wonderful bathroom moments. So it comes in different ways. Another thing is to get creative. I like to get big sheets of paper. I also recommend this, and pull out your crayons and markers and just doodle and draw and design. It wakes up more aspects of your brain. It kind of opens you up so that you can be more connected to your heart, to your inner wisdom, to your guidance. And so that's another something that you can do. And you can do something like mind mapping, which is also kind of a creative brainstorming process. You put your issue or what you want in the center. And if you aren't sure what it is, you can Google it. But those are just some of the things. Turn on some music, dance, get some exercise. With all of us having to be indoors a lot more, I'm really noticing a difference. Even living where I live in Southern California, not getting out quite as much as I need to take care of myself. So if you're feeling that weightedness of a decision, Do something that's going to lift up your energy, that's going to open you up more. And little by little, and I also didn't mention, write. You know, it's really good to just what I call mind dump. You know, just write all the yuckies or the whatevers or the wishes or dreams or whatever comes out of your mind, your heart, and your pen. And I actually encourage you to do it more handwriting, although on your computer can work. But I think there's something that works a little better when you write by hand. I know that a lot of people get guidance by hearing things. I don't get that all that often. Mine comes more in a knowing. And then also when I write, it's amazing sometimes what comes out of my pen. So that's another something that you can do.
You're talking a lot about self-care right now, and you're really touching on those aspects of it. I mean, business starts with you. If you're a business owner, the business starts with you. What problem are you solving? And you know Sherry Tree. We both know Sherry. I was just speaking of her yesterday in a podcast. And I hear this a lot from very successful business owners, that Sherry created bank for her own problem that she needed to solve. She had a problem with sales. I couldn't make the sales that I was wanting to do. So I created a product. I created a solution for me. And then as people were asking me what I was doing and I started sharing that, it started growing and blowing up. So she didn't have any intention on forming bank as her company. She had the intention of forming bank for herself. And so it definitely starts with you. And I was having this conversation with my coach recently as well, that the business it is you and it is about you. But what's really beautiful in that is if you can pinpoint who you are, what problem do you solve? What do you really want out of life? What do you really want out of your business? And you build this for you. It has this magical, amazing way of serving other people, and then it becomes about them. It becomes, how can I make it better for them? So being in touch with who you are, having that self-care is so vital. What are some key self-care tactics that you advise your business owning clients on how to break free from the get up? Because a lot of us are working from home now. We get up, we go into our office, we work. At the end of we look at the clock, end of the day, we get up, we go do our wife duties or our husband duties or whatever that may be. So that's a bad trap to get caught into. What advice or tips do you have on that self-care? What do you find to be the most important ones?
Well, self-care really is important. Like you alluded to, if I don't do my morning practices and routines, my day doesn't seem to flow as easily and as well. And so that becomes really, really important. And I loved what you said, by the way, September, that a lot of times we create a business, first of all, yes, to offer a problem, but more times than not, it's a problem maybe that we ourselves have experienced. And I'm no exception. I was very dissatisfied with a lot of my life. I was a management and organizational development consultant at a very young age and grew that arm of my career. And then, as you know, I had a very serious accident that shifted my trajectory in terms of personal and professional growth. And of course, now I've married both. So I think it's really important to look at not only what your gifts and talents are, but what has been a struggle for you in your life? What is something that has really been challenging for you that you want to be a solution for? I will confess that I have taught many, many courses. I think at some point I counted well over 50 that I've created. God only knows how many talks. And it's like, what the heck? If we're supposed to, we teach what we need to learn. I guess I came into the life having to learn a lot. And, and that's probably been proven to be true. And so I think that's the first thing. So many people talk about having some people, sorry, I got a distraction. I thought I had turned off my phone. And, so many people talk about having to, be a certain way, do a certain something, and it just isn't working. And so you really have to look at, not only, I know what I was going to say, it's important to look at what your gifts and talents are, but it's even more important, in my opinion, to look at what has bothered you in your life. Where have your challenges been? Or possibly, what about our world really troubles you? I mean, where you get upset, you feel that there's an injustice, or you simply see a missing. And I think when we come from that place, it makes a huge difference. And as I mentioned earlier, it makes a difference in how we care for ourselves. Because when you're on mission, when you're on purpose, you know that you have something that nobody else can offer. And you want to make sure, just like you take care of a little baby, your business is your baby. You don't let a little baby go without food or changing their diapers. Well, I did my first day my son was born, but that's a side story. And you want to care for it. So by taking care of yourself, you have to figure out what nourishes you. Because if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, as the airlines talk about, you're not going to be as good for your employees, for your staff, for the people that you serve. And it becomes very important. I can only speak for myself. I know in the morning, I do want quiet time. It's critical for me. I listen to one of my audios. I do my own healing work. And I will possibly write, maybe do a little reading if I have time. And then I get out for a walk. And when maybe we go to the gym again, I might be able to do that. So it's important for you to do that. And then little things also that really aren't little things. When I first wake up, I make sure to drink a couple glasses of water, rehydrate ourselves. That becomes really important. And especially for people like me who do energy work part of the time, it's even more important in terms of hydrating. So the other thing is to really take care of your body. I just turned 69, which is a little sobering, but that's another side issue. And it's become even more critical to know my body's so sensitive. And it's really important for you, if you don't know what works for your body, to start recognizing that you have to care for it as well. And just like the example of the little baby, our body doesn't get a say in the matter. If you're eating whatever, it has to do with whatever you give it. And so how kind are you being to your body? Because I'm telling you, it's being phenomenal to carry you all this way. I remember a couple of years ago, I had a special kind of ultrasound where they looked at my heart. My dad had passed away at a young age. And so it had been a while since I really looked at how my heart was doing. And I got to see that little sucker just working away. And I was just so intrigued. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do everything I can to take care of you, because it looked like it was running a friggin' marathon. I just was so very impressed. So again, like anything, you have to find what works for you. And like anything else, you just have to do it.
How do you know, or how would a business owner know when it's time to let go or pivot?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
That's a really tough one. And I bet if we interviewed 100 business owners, every single one has had at least a dozen of those moments.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's like, okay, because that's also both the gift and the challenge of having a business is it's not just a straight trajectory to success, but however you're defining it, it's more like this and weaving and whatever. I mean, many of us have had to pivot right now because some of us speak, some of us do things very differently. So many of us are going, well, what can we do online? and there have been benefits to that, including CEO space. I think it's great that we're offering this virtually. So again, I think, first of all, you have to take a step back. And not that you totally listen to or agree, but this is where advisors come in. And they can possibly offer different perspectives. They may be able to offer different solutions. But I think it comes to, in my world, and what I certainly try to help support with my clients is, what's your gut saying to you? Because I honestly believe that our intuition will guide us. And even when it looks like you should say, we are done, your heart and your gut keeps saying, not yet. Or maybe it will say, maybe we need to come up with a different plan. But more times than not, I will actually experience people just need more of a timeout to kind of regroup, get back to their heart and soul of their business, the why, the reason they're doing this, and then to also strategize what might I need to do to jumpstart where we are right now. And I would also say that kind of jumpstarting is very common, and looking at what kind of adjustments are needed. And again, that's where a mentor or an advisor is critical, because when we're in the middle of it, I can be brilliant for you. But when it comes to me, not quite as good. And so it really helps to get that input and that feedback.
Yeah. And I think resistance comes into play in that conversation as well, too. And ask yourself, what am I resisting? Am I resisting the idea that of letting go of a business? Am I afraid of trying to save face and keep it going? Or am I afraid of a pivot, that the ideas that I originally had is not working? So who's to say that this next idea or this next pivot is going to work for me? It's a uncomfortable place to be in that place. And I've been there. I think a lot of business owners have been. There comes that time, you know, Greg Reed talks a lot about that. 3 feet from gold. Don't stop till you're 3 feet from gold.
Yeah. You know, this is actually the 39th year since I began my business, and I've been working even longer than that. And so I really have seen a lot of, and experienced a lot of what we're talking about. And, you know, one of the things I pride myself in is, you know, the fact that I have been doing this for a very long time. I personally have experienced a lot of mistakes, a lot of moments of frustration, many days of just wanting to pull the covers over my head, and some days I did. And also so grateful that I never gave up. You know, somebody once asked me in an interview, I don't know when, it's been some time ago, and they said, well, what's the secret to your success? And I'm thinking to myself, is this a kind of a trick question? And my response then, that is still the same today, I never gave up. And I think that the biggest muscle that we have to build as business owners is that perseverance and knowing when to ask for help and getting it. Because I can be very brilliant in my lane, but there are a whole lot of other lanes that I'm not as good at. And so having others to provide support and feedback and ideas and whatever is so critical. We were not meant to sit on top of little mountaintops and, you know, meditate our lives away. We're here to support each other. And yes, I have wisdom, but if you and I combined our wisdom and expertise, it gets better. And so that's another beauty of CEO space, is that we come together in community and collaborate. And as a result, we get even better results.
Yeah, the quality of relationships is so vital, especially through this pandemic. I think that's been one of the biggest confirmations that I've received is the quality of the relationship. And I'm so grateful to have the quality of relationships that I do around me. And you've known me for quite a while, and the work that you've helped me do to heal myself, heal the traumas of my past, and really become who I really am. We were talking about this the other day, that the first times that we met, it was uncomfortable for me to walk through the lobby. And I find that the more that you know who you are, the better your relationships are. Because the quality of my relationships in that time was that almost 10 years ago, somewhere around there. The relationship, I don't even have the same relationships. And if I were to compare them on a scale, they're very, very different, very different. So getting in touch with who you are, knowing that problem that you solve, knowing the gifts and talents that you bring to the table, it all plays a role in the ability of earning a revenue too, that I find. The more you know yourself, the better your revenue, the better your income, the better you know yourself. So again, it goes back to stressing how important to be aware of the business starts with you. What role are you playing? What is your mindset? What do you know that you bring to the table? What is your lane? Alex Stern was talking about that the other day. I said, Alec, what's helped you become so successful in all of these business ventures that you've taken? He says, I stay in my lane. I just stay in my lane. And I get scrappy where I need to get scrappy. And I reach out to relationships that if I need help with something, I just reach into my relationships. And so the key for Alec has also been those relationships. That's what's really helped him move through the journey that he's moved through, and all the IPOs and the buyouts that he's been able to do, is the quality of relationship. What advice do you have around that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have said for many years, the quality of your relationships equal to the quality of your results. And one of the areas that I focus on is the RQ quotient. And just like we talk about IQ and emotional intelligence, RQ is your relationship quotient, which combines your intelligence. It combines your emotional awareness. But we have to develop the skills to have healthy, effective relationships. Because without those, there will be no business. If you're just trying to have a business just to make money, I mean, we all want to make money, but it just doesn't work very well. And it doesn't work very well in today's world. People are a little more savvy than they used to be. And also because of all the technology and everything, people are just getting bombarded with stuff. And so people don't just want to be sold something. It's like, hey, you interested in me? I had a conversation with somebody just about a week and a half ago who lives in Australia. It was referred to me by somebody they thought we should meet. And all he did was tell me how wonderful he was. And it's very possible he's very gifted at what he does.
Possibly.
But he asked nothing about me, which also, if he would have said, Wendy, just ask me a couple of questions, that could have even directed what he was trying to convey about what he did. But I just sat there and was like, well, this is special. And then he said, I'd really like you to work with me. And I'm like, really? And because why would he think I would be interested in that? He had no idea. Did I have a problem? Did I have an interest? Nothing. And, so the art of cultivating relationships, you mentioned Sherry, Tree, and Bank. Sherry and Esther are good friends of mine. And they have created the system with Bank, looking at decoding somebody's personality style, which also translates to their communication style, so that you can have more effective connections in your relationships. It's kind of like a very, very different version of men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's very clear to me what I'm saying. And that's where it begins and that's where it ends. And so communication 101 really becomes important. But to also communicate in a way that you get into somebody else's world. When I go to a networking event, or when I used to go to a networking event, I always wanted to be first to find out about that person, because maybe they're going to say, well, what about you? What do you do? Then I can speak to who they are, and I can make it more related to their world, their life, their business, or not. But at least I have information. So to me, relationships are everything.
Yeah, you've got some pretty awesome relationships around you.
Yeah. In my moments where I've had pity parties, and I've had them in the last several years or more, there was a time I was going through a really, really rough time with a family member, and my heart was very sad. And I literally made a list of my closest friends. And I was like, oh, and I kept it on my desk as a reminder, you are not alone. There are people surrounding you that love you. So yes, I am blessed.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, any other advice you want to give our listeners about the miracle of your business?
I think that miracles are everywhere. And I think we just have to be open to notice them and to also receive them. One of the issues that I see with everybody except one person that I've ever worked with is their resistance, their block to being open to receive. And fortunately, I have a way to open that. And it makes a big difference in what I consider your financial set point. And we also raise that. But to be able to really dial up and receive all the good that I believe that the universe is trying to co-create with us and co-conspire with us so that we have that. So please just remember that if you have a desire in your heart, it's your truth. And just keep going.
Just keep swimming, right? Oh, that's Finding Nemo for those that have small kids. During that time, that was something that Dory would constantly, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. So just keep going. Yes, and I absolutely, I want to echo that, because there are times where you're going to feel like you're up against a wall. There are times where you feel like you should give up, or maybe maybe you're crazy. Maybe you should just walk away. But step away, like you said, get into nature, do what you do that centers you, whether that's playing with your kids or going to the beach or being in the mountains, whatever that is. Get centered again, tap back into, why did I do this to begin with? And be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. That's something big that I hear in between the lines of what you've shared. Wendy, I've really enjoyed the conversation. So where can our listeners find out more about you?
Well, that's easy. Wendy Darling.com is my website, wendydarling.com. And then if you want to email me, wendy@wendydarling.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Wendy.